accountability to our regular commission. Commissioner Skip Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Harold Eustache?
No, you still won't.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines?
Here.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan? Commissioner Dwayne Long?
Here.
Commissioner Charles Wilson?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all. Thank y'all for gathering. I would like to say, even if you're not on the finance committee, it's good to be at these meetings as we discuss this. And I would say whenever we have a different meeting, whether it's policy, operations, finance, I would encourage all the members of the commission to join. Just because you're not on the committee does not mean you can't come to the meeting. We would encourage you to do that. So thank you for coming today. And today what we're going to be doing is talking about the capital improvement plan, the CIP plan. And although Mike is probably going to go over this, for those of you who are not familiar with it or have not looked at it since last year, just remember that once we get kind of approval for an item, if there's no other expenses for that, it may roll off this list. That does not mean, for instance, the big light item that we talked about at the meeting about the meters is not on here. That project is not finished, but it's already been appropriated from that. So as we look through those things, if that question were to pop up, just remember that.
All right. I'm going to try to run through this fairly quickly. If you got questions, ask me, but I believe Mr. Younger has to jump off at 2:15. Three parts to this presentation. The first couple slides are budget overview, and then Jan's going to present the solid waste capital projects, and then I'll come back and do the water and sewer, and then Kelly will wrap us up with financial updates. So from a budget timeline, the budget process really starts in January. February, the request gets sent over to the budget office. March, when we normally present this to the commission. This year was a little different. We kicked it back to April. I believe on the 18th, which is Friday after next Friday, we'll be presenting the operations budget. May, the operations and capital budgets will be on your agenda for approval, and city council will hopefully adopt those in June and July 1st. The budgets will be effective.
So whether you're in the finance committee or not, please have that on the calendar.
Yes.
It's an important meeting.
Capital.
And let me add this one thing. I know for the new members, the utility commission recommends to the city council the budget for our department, but the city council ultimately has to approve the budget.
But you all set the rates.
That's right.
Not the city council.
Right.
CIP, this is what you'll see today. You'll see a bunch of these tables. The blue is what we're asking for next fiscal year, which is FY24, and there's 5 planning years after that. Those are just projections. They'll probably change. Keep going, Courtney. Our capital budgets are funded 2 different ways: through pay-go or cash on hand, or through different various types of bonds or state loans. Operations budget covers personnel, supplies and services, and the debt service from capital. And this is supported by revenues from different fees: water and sewer readiness charge fees and landfill tipping fees. Couple definitions: budget, this is just estimate of income and expenditures for a set period of time. Appropriations of what we're asking for today are actually May. And then spending is different. So you have to appropriate the funds before you actually start the project, and then you spend them out over a period of time. And we have a slide to show that. This is we spent some time. Mr. Rubio helped us with this. We wanted to mimic an actual project, and Nilsson was a perfect example. It had several different appropriations for several different reasons, but in FY17 we appropriated some funds for a study to kind of figure out what we needed to do. So we appropriated these funds. Over the next year, we done that study. In FY18, we appropriated the design funds to design the project. We designed it over the next couple of years. In FY19, we asked for, I think it was $50 million or $55 million for construction. At that point, design was still underway. So we asked for some more money in FY20. Design was still underway. And at that point, probably around FY21, we realized that the construction environment had changed and the project was going to be significantly more costly, so we asked for some more construction appropriations in FY '22. FY '22 is about when we started construction on the project, and you can see that's when the spending went up drastically. So where the line changes from solid to dash, that is about where we are now. So far, we've actually spent probably 65 to 70 million, and we're projecting to spend the rest over the next couple of years. Any questions on that? Because that's a pretty key point.
Like the chart, that's right.
But that's what Mr. Parker was referring to. So Nelson does not show up on this because it's not a capital project that we're requesting additional funds for. But it does not mean that we're not spending, we are still spending money on that project.
And here's the biggest thing for this presentation. The big hitter on today is Elledge Lagoons. It's $40 million. We talked about it back in March. We have to appropriate more funds than we think it's going to be. If the project comes in less, which we hope it does, we won't spend that additional money. That money just kind of goes away. But we have to have it to basically cover a PO. So if it comes in at $35 million, we're in good shape, and that $5 million goes away. But that's why we have to ask for more money up front than we think it's going to cost. All right. I think there should be one or two more before I turn it over to Jan. One more. Here's the CIP drivers. There's 4 different main ones. There's capacity driven, compliance, regulatory safety requirements, condition, kind of like Sprague Street that we talked about earlier, and efficiency, which also, with AMI. Those are the 4 main ones we look at. And that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jan.
Okay, thank you, Mike. You can go ahead and go. These are the 6 active projects in this planning window for solid waste. The first 3, Haynes Front Entrance, Evo Property, and the pavement repair projects are the ones that have appropriations in the upcoming budget year that we would be asking you to approve. The other 3 are listed simply to show you the future 5 years, the 5 planning years. So the totals for FY '24 are $910,000. So under $1 million, quite a bit less than last year where we asked for over 16 million because of the MSE wall or MSE berm project that we've talked about. So total appropriations for next year, 910,000, and anticipated over the next 6 years would be 37,845,000. And we've got slides on each one of those, so you have a chance to ask questions about those if you like. So this is the overview of the site with the most recent aerial photography. At the top, you see the 2 parcels, Evo and Nevo. That's just strictly the way we refer to those parcels. They were purchased for soil borrowed material to support landfill operations. So as you come to the south, you see the light blue dash line, that's cells 6 and 7, the last 2 horizontal expansions of the landfill. And then the pink dash line and the green dash line is the footprint of the perimeter berm, the MSE berm that we're going to talk about. And the front entrance, of course, is over on the southeast side, lower right. So we can refer back to that if you have questions where it would be. So Evo property, this parcel was previously owned by the Evo Corporation, hence the name. We purchased it for soil borrow, and the design of an access road has been underway for a couple of years now. That money has already been appropriated to their point about spending down money that's already been appropriated. But we've encountered an issue with the design where we can actually save money by increasing the construction cost a little bit. If we change the design to a bottomless culvert, such as the one you see in the picture there, we will avoid wetlands impacts where we have to pay into the mitigation fund with the Corps of Engineers. So we're asking for another $200,000 for that project to change the design of that culvert. Construction would begin later in this year, probably. Questions on that? The front entrance is a project that's driven by the Department of Transportation's widening of Haynesville Road. They're widening Haynesville from University Parkway all the way back to Museum Drive. So that will impact our front entrance. We'll have to replace the fencing, gates, security cameras, lighting, landscaping, everything at the front, as well as maintain security during construction. So gates and fencing during construction as well.
Did you find out if the gates were automatic?
We haven't specified that yet, but we certainly intend to. unless we run into more budgetary issues where we couldn't afford it, but yeah, they're large enough, they really need to be on there. So the original estimate that we got was very preliminary. It dates back to 2019. You see that was only $280,000. As we've seen the more detailed design and moved forward with it, we've seen the need to add money to that project. The current estimate is about $475,000. So given all the uncertainty in the bidding markets and construction markets right now, we've added pretty significant contingency to that and are asking for another $300,000 for that.
Is that scope or just materials?
It's a
Cost.
better understanding of the scope.
Okay.
And material. So it would be both of those. And we actually have an overview, an aerial on the next slide that it flies this in pretty quickly, but the blue is our existing fence. Most of you are familiar with the way it looks, I think. The yellow is the proposed fencing for our temporary fencing. So you see, because of the way the road splits, we have to add extra gates, and it's much longer than the current location of the fencing. The permanent right-of-way extends pretty deep into our property. That's the reddish orange line. So there's a lot of impact to the front there, as you can see. So as we got a better understanding of the scope, that's the basic reason for that price increasing the way it
I
did.
like that amount.
Yeah.
It does help. Yeah.
Now, Ms. Hines, you said good. So was there a reason you said good?
There you go. There you go.
I'm glad that's helpful.
And we completed our negotiations with DOT, right?
Yes, yes. DOT has paid us what they're gonna pay us.
You can call that negotiation.
Yes, it is less than the estimated cost. So pavement design is another project, or design, repair, and replacement, actually. Another project where we are asking for additional appropriations this year and anticipate more for next year. All our facilities are, there's heavy truck traffic that wears down the pavement. We've got 4 different locations where we often have to repave. There's 3 in this particular project: Haynes Mill Road Landfill, Overdale, and 4 and 52 yard waste facilities. So we've previously appropriated $600,000. The design for that is underway. We're asking for $410,000 for Haynes Mill Road Landfill this year and $260,000 for 4 and 52 next year. The MSE berm, you'll hear us call it an MSE wall at times, but I think the term berm is basically interchangeable, but I think berm is probably more accurate in terms of because it's not a vertical wall, it's actually a berm, an earthen berm. So this is the structure that would be constructed around the edge of the landfill, and it allows us to put more waste in essentially the same footprint that's currently permitted. It'll add about 20% more airspace, estimated to be about 7 years of additional capacity based on the projections of waste right now. The construction is scheduled to begin later this year. We still don't have the full permit to construct from the state, so we're waiting on that. Fingers crossed that will come soon. Would continue for a couple of years. And then there's another section of the wall, the pink dash line on the picture that we looked at, would be planned for 2028. So you see that 5.73 million planned appropriation in future years. Cells 6 and 7, these are the final, the phase 3, cell 6 and 7 is the final horizontal expansion of the currently permitted 90-acre footprint. So that's also anticipated to occur in FY28 in conjunction with the final section of berm. It's more efficient to build both of those structures at the same time because the berm fits into the liner, the anchor trench of the liner. So that's estimated at $13,030,000 in addition to monies that have already been appropriated. And this is an ongoing project that we've talked about before, the landfill gas system that collects the gas that's generated by the waste as it decomposes. This system needs to be expanded periodically as the waste fill progresses. We have routine expansions planned for FY 25, 27, and 29. So that's basically what that is. The picture there is just one of the vertical wells in the waste. I think that's our last one. Courtney, any questions on any of those?
And we're still working on trying to see how much we can, we're selling them the gas.
We are, yes, and we're making progress. We've had numerous conversations and meetings. We have a draft amendment that we will bring to you possibly within a couple of months. I'll give you more information and seek approval for that.
Jan, the widening, the expansion, is that going to be on your side of Haynes Mill or across Southworks?
It is primarily on our side, which is why it makes such a big impact on us. There's a major water line on the other side. I think that precludes them being able to get it that way. So it's mostly on our side.
Stay away from our water lines.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Switch to order.
So the big number, the ask for this year is $69.5 million. 40 of that is Elledge, again, which we talked about back in March. Over the planning window, FY 24 through 29, it's about $268.5 million. There's 17 different projects or programs, 7 of which we're not asking for any dollars this year. The breakdown, there's 10 water distribution, wastewater collection, different programs, projects. There's 2 water treatment projects, and there's 5 wastewater treatment projects. Start going through these. Asset management, this covers our master plans, our cybersecurity, KPI development, dashboarding, that type of thing. Asking for $500,000 this year. That's going to cover the GIS utility network, KPI dashboard, some of the stuff you've seen with AMI. We're doing some really cool dashboarding stuff with our IS group. And then the next master plan would be the wastewater facilities, that's scheduled for FY 25. Okay. Collection system update. You all should be very familiar with this one. $15 million in FY 24 is what we've been asking for the last several years. It'll fund CSIP year 8, the contract with HDR, system-wide sewer phase 6. We're currently in phase 5 right now. Foxcroft digs and Maxine rehab projects, and any red flag or really any unforeseen sewer improvements come out of this. And there's a couple of CSIP slides showing the progress. So when we started this back in 2015, we were having about 124 SSOs in that year, and we've dropped down to 55 in a fairly short amount of time. So the program's working well. Next slide, please. This just shows the other phase of the program is the condition assessment. This is how Sprague Street got identified. We've done a condition assessment on 38% of the collection system, which is about 515 miles. We started with the most risky pipes first, and that was, by no surprise, Core downtown is probably your oldest pipes, and we're working out. Next slide, please. Here's a breakdown of the capital projects that are in design and constructed. We've completed about $21 million in construction. There's almost $7 million in progress. There's $10 million out for bidding, and $18 million in design. And there's some design phase and data collection. Any questions on CSIP? Elledge Basin, there's going to be 3 different ones, types of these programs. We have a different program for every basin. There's 3 different basins. South Fork and Muddy Creek go to the Muddy Creek wastewater plant, and the Archie Elledge Basin goes to the Elledge plant. What these programs are designed to do is to capture any capacity driven project that are identified in the master plan. Bill mentioned earlier, we're currently working through our collection system master plan. So until we get those recommended projects and recommendations from the consultant, we're going to hold off on asking for any funds in these 3.
In the current year.
In the current year, yeah. Facility improvements. This would be the program that this meter shop renovation was included with last year, the year before. We're including $2 million for hopefully a renovated space at the field operations admin building up the street. That building is well over 30 years old and hasn't been touched since it was built. We're currently running out of space with office space. We have plenty of vehicles and everything, but we're limited with office space. We brought cross-connection control back in. We've converted 2 out of the 3 conference rooms into office space, brought cubicles in, and we're running out of some administrative space. So that $2 million, is an estimated projection. This meter shop renovation was roughly a 1.5 million, and it included 1,500 square feet of retrofitted space. So we're actually setting in the old part of the building, and then 2,500 square feet of new space of an addition. So we're thinking a very similar size project for up the hill, if you all are willing to approve.
Has Mr. Brooks been satisfied with that project?
Yes, great.
The staff has been very happy with this compared to what it was. Lift station replacement improvements. This is another one that's directly tied to the collection system master plan. The lift stations are technically part of the collection system. So since the master plan is currently under development, we decided to hold off on asking for any preparations in this program. Same with Muddy Creek. This is what I mentioned earlier with Elledge. NCDOT road widening. This is a program that funds any utility relocation specifically for NCDOT projects. We're not aware of any NCDOT projects coming across our desk this year, and we have a little bit of buffer from previous year appropriations, so we're not asking for any appropriations this year.
That's surprising.
It's a very welcome surprise. Let's put it that way.
Let me maybe ask this question for the betterment of knowledge for those. So in the original one, there was a picture of like a new highway that was going in and potential things from that. So maybe explain to us again, when DOT comes in, right of ways, who's responsible for what? I mean, as I look at this future beltway, that seems like that'd be a little different, say, than Metalwork, where you've got an existing roadway. Maybe
it's a great question. Easiest way to think about it is who was there first. If DOT was there first, we paid for the relocations. If we were there first, DOT pays for them. So for a road widening, for the most part, road was there, we came in, but utilities were responsible for that. Beltway is a different animal. Beltway is going across raw land, so it's crossing sewer outfalls and all kinds of other infrastructure. And in those cases, when we were there first and they come in afterwards, they pay for those improvements. Make sense? Okay. South Fork Basin, this is the last basin that we were talking about. This was just on hold for a couple years. Water distribution system. This is probably the 3rd largest program that we have after Elledge Lagoons and the collection system. This covers all distribution system related projects, including hydrant replacement, water service line renewal, valve replacement, water main replacement, and any improvements associated with lead and copper. Asking for $10 million this year. And then water tank rehabilitation. We've got a really extensive condition assessment program on our 14 tanks with Hayes and Sawyer. We're anticipating performing condition assessment on the following 5 tanks: Bodenheimer, Tobaccoville, Glen High, and then there's a wash water tank at the Swan plant and a finished water reservoir at Thomas we're going to take a look at this year. So that 250 will cover those. Idles dam structural repairs. This one could get bumped back a little bit. We just want to get on your radar. I believe probably in February, you all approved structural assessment with HDR to look at this dam. This dam is well over 100 years old. There's some known structural issues. This is just putting this on your radar that it's going to be coming sometime in the next couple of years. Water treatment rehab and upgrades. This program covers all 3 of our water treatment plants. Really, it's meant for equipment replacement, pumps, PLCs, anything over $50,000 that has a lifespan of over 10 years. This coming fiscal year, there's two main projects that'll cover. Northwest Raw Water Pump Station, we're gonna upgrade the switch gear. And then at Thomas, there's a wash water clarifier repairs that need to be performed. Biosolids drying facility, this one covers the drying facility at Elledge wastewater treatment plant. We have $250,000 in there. If one of the centrifuges go out, we have to replace it, it'll wipe out every bit of that money. They're about $250,000. But that is really meant for any equipment that fails, we have to cover during the year. Elledge wastewater treatment plant, this is very similar to the Muddy Creek. We have $500,000 at Elledge to cover. Same thing, pumps, any electrical or mechanical device that need to be repaired during the year. Elledge Lagoons, this is one that Barry Bickerstaff came and presented back in March. We know it's a big ticket item. We wanted to get in front of that and share that with you. I think Barry, done a good job of, kind of telling the background and the history. Are there any questions related to this one? This one's by far the biggest one on the book. Okay. Like I said earlier, we hope that $40 million is, way higher than it really comes in. We hope it comes in way less than that. And then I believe this might be the last one, hopefully. No, two more. Muddy Creek, this is for the Muddy Creek plant, $500,000 there for the same stuff, pumps, electrical equipment, that type of thing. And the last one should be nutrients. And this one is several years out. Our current permit does not require nutrient limits, but we do think that the next time I think by 2027, we'll probably have those. So this is a placeholder. It's been there for several years. We keep bumping it down the road. So we're showing that, in FY 28. Any question? I know that was a lot of information.
So in general, the 500,000 a year pretty much covers in the past.
For the most part.
So that goes through really quickly, the solid waste and the water sewer budget. And I know Mr. Younger, who's on the finance committee, said he needed to leave at 2:15. So before we turn it over to Kelly to go through some of our financials, Mr. Parker, if it's okay with you, we can vote on the capital budgets to move those forward, or any discussion that y'all may have.
Do we have any questions, discussions about the CIP as proposed? Alan, do you have any questions? Charles?
I don't. Everything looked good to me.
Okay, so the members of our committee, we have a motion to approve the CIP plan as proposed by staff.
So
We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. No discussions. Beth, do we need to do a vote?
Yes, Tom Griffin, Hugh Jernigan,
Yes,
Right.
I'm sorry.
just the committee members.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
but not including
No, Christine.
Yeah.
Chris. Okay, sorry. Finance Chair Chris Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Alan Younger.
Yes.
So that motion passes and will be sent along to the full commission.
That's right, thank you. Hold on. I need to share it again. so.
Yeah, no, I think Kelly's got 4 slides.
Okay. Oh, this mouse is like so annoying.
They are very,
I've got it.
That's where we
I know we gotta do it.
Yeah, Kelly's gonna talk about.
The balance.
The last one.
Yep.
Okay, so our CFO Kelly's with us and she's gonna go over the next couple of slides.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick review with a focus on the debt service. I know Commissioner Long has asked to see the balance sheet, so we will have that at the May meeting for both of the utilities. But this is just a quick review of the debt service. You can see there the requirements for water and sewer is about $44.5 million. And you can see there the breakdown between revenue bonds, state loans, and then our regular 5-year lease payments. the total outstanding revenue bonds at June 30th will be about $382 million. And state loans outstanding around 180. That's going to vary based on the spending in Nielsen through the end of the year. So we actually take on the debt as we spend the funds. So that's a bit of a variable there. And then you'll see that go up in future years as we complete the spending on Nielsen. The next section here are the,
Last question.
yes,
All the bonds we have outstanding right now, are those fixed rate or variable rate? Or
fixed rate,
all of
yes.
them fixed rate?
Yes, they're fixed rates. And the rates have gone up recently, but fortunately, all the debt has been refinanced in prior years. So the commission is very fortunate to have very, very low rates currently and locked in at those rates. For the solid waste fund, you can see that the estimated debt service is about 1.8 million, and the outstanding debt is right around 4 million. Something that's very important, according to our bond covenants, we're required to meet the coverage ratio for our water and sewer bonds. So this just shows you an estimated calculation for FY23, gross operating revenues minus operating expenses. And then that's divided by the bonded debt service to get to a coverage ratio. So our requirement is 1.1. Our goal is 2. So we're currently tracking where we want to be. There have been years, and you'll see that on a future slide, where we've been under the 2, and then that's okay, but we would like to keep it at 2.
Are our bonds rated?
Yes, AAA.
All of them.
Uh-huh.
Does that coverage ratio affect the rating if we drop under?
We're not allowed to drop under the minimum 1.1.
Oh, well, okay, that's, okay.
But if we were to drop, let's say, to 1.2 or something really, really low, that would be a concern that the rating agencies would take into account when we go to market or when they annually review. So they could, it would be a factor, but typically there would be more. They would be looking for a decrease in your coverage as well as a decrease in our cash on hand. So they're really looking at the whole picture of the financial health of the utility. Yeah. You can see here there were years where it was lower. Prior to FY20, we were actually under that 2% goal, but for the last few years, we've been very fortunate to be right where we want to be, or even above that point. As far as the future years, we'll be able to fine tune this more as we finalize the rate model and the recommendations for the FY24 budget. So this could change depending on how those conversations come out. But where we hope to be is at the 2%, but whether or not we can be there really will just depend on how the final budget pans out for the future. And then here you can see we've got a few years where our debt payments are going to be higher, around 48 million. Then you see a drop off there in 2031 and another big drop in 2038 and 2041 where things really start to fall off. So we've got a few high years. So it wouldn't be surprising if our coverage did drop some in the few years ahead. And that's all I have today.
Can I speak to that previous slide? So as we go into our finance committee meeting next Friday, just be aware that some of the things that we're going to be, or some of the recommendations we're going to be making in terms of our rate factor, FY25 through FY20, basically 32 into consideration. Some of we're trying to spread the pain basically across a period of years, and we're taking that into our rate consideration as well.
So I saw that in the budget that the state, I think they passed, but I'm not sure exactly where they are. So I'll say proposed budget, that there was a good amount of money that they were having for water and sewer development. Have we looked at to see if any of that is potentially something we can take advantage of?
I don't know if you've seen that or not, Mike.
Aaron, is this the ARPA funds? You think this is what the county's interested in?
It could be.
Was it ARPA funds, Mr. Parker?
I don't know. I just saw that they were kind of touting because one of the big things in the budget was money for water and sewer.
We can look into that. We can look into that proposal and take a look at what it's for and get back to you.
Yeah. And
What was it, like in the form of loans or grants or
I don't
anything?
know. I just,
Well, I know there's been a lot of discussion, to your point, there's been a lot of discussion about that. I know the county has approached us, some of the county commissioners are interested in getting some of those funds. So we've identified some projects that we think might be eligible, if it's the same thing that you're referring to. So a lot of our work is rehab and kind of maintenance stuff. And so a lot of what they're looking for is new,
New
and so
stuff.
we may not fit those requirements. We have to see.
I'm already asking that.
And when we are too, I mean, you
Yeah.
look at like Highway 65, that is a new asset. And that was 3.1 million in grant money that we got.
Right.
So that's a, perfect use for it.
Yep.
I think the county's got money, for Tanglewood Business Park as well. And we've talked to them about for running gravity sewer up. So there's definitely money out there. We just gotta see if we're eligible or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our state reps, I was saying, I saw this in the budget, you're touting it. Is
Yeah.
there any that you can bring home?
Right. And I know that one of the other things that the county's looking at is, they're looking at growth outside of our, expanding growth outside of our current service footprint. And so there's a lot of discussion about that and where does it make sense? And so is there some money from the state that we can put in a regional lift station to expand services? But in addition to that, kind of in conjunction with that, I've been working with the planning department because you don't want to expand or put a sewer lift station out in an area and don't have any controlled growth. So you want to, you got to think about how it's zoned and what the impacts of just putting a pump station out there will do. So it's really us all coordinating efforts and kind of collaborating to talk about what's the best way to proceed. And we're having those conversations.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so Kelly, with this big CIP that we have, you're gonna fund us some money, especially that
Yeah.
lagoons.
We've talked about that. I know one thing that Mike and I have talked about is maybe deferring some projects, or hopefully there's going to be savings in some of our other projects that can cover some of that. We may, have to look at debt, but we would rather not look at that, just as we expressed to the rating agencies last year that we wouldn't be looking to issue revenue bonds for a few years. So we're really trying to do what we can on the operations side or the savings side to cover that.
Yeah, that debt repayment schedule, that next 4 or 5 or 6 years, we gotta kind of survive that storm, and we're aware of that, because it'll have a direct impact on the operations budget. So we know that, $40 million is a lot of money, regardless if it's planned or not, but when it's unplanned and you don't see it coming, it hurts a little more. So we've got to, what we've done, we've really sat back and evaluated every single project. I went through the spend plan and pushed as much down the road as I can. Cancel some things all out together. And Bill and I, we're meeting with division managers, I think this week or next week, to kind of convey that to them. So unless it's mission critical, next 4 or 5 years is going to be, mandated. Keep everything, together, really. We're not going to go out and be asking you guys for, multi-million-dollar master plan projects.
Okay,
Unless they're mission critical.
Unless they're mission critical.
I'm writing that down.
I know, that's why I had to put that.
She's not
disclaimer
recording,
on
so
there.
I never said that.
I'm writing that down. I will. pull
No,
that
and
back
hopefully
out.
won't get any, surprises, but we are trying to, we know as this shows, our payment schedule is really high after this year, so.
I was glad to have Skip here today because you were asking some good questions. You've got a lot of knowledge about how this financing works. Maybe for the benefit of those who don't understand, could you rehash over how we use PAYGO to help with some of this?
So right now, we're using between 30 and some years 36 to 38 million a year on PAYGO. So the rate structure is really set to cover that. And that is one thing the rating agencies really like to see, is that we're not trying to borrow money for every single project we're doing. That, if you look year over year, there might be one year where it's 28 million. There might be another year where it's 34 million. So our goal is kind of 30, although that does vary up and down by year.
Okay, any other questions? If not, then I'll take a motion to adjourn the finance committee meeting.
So moved.
We have a second. He's already gone.
So it's unanimous. Whichever say it's unanimous.
Okay, so I'll say we're adjourned, but for those of you, especially on the finance committee meeting, we got to have you here, but for everybody else, please come to the meeting that's scheduled for
April 21st at
April
10
21st
a.m.
at, okay. Thank y'all.
Yes, thank you.